Shut up and sit down.
Welcome everybody to the DwnFwdPUNChcast, episode 21.
21.
I'm your host, Jason Saris, and with me,
I'm David Reed.
how you doing today?
Good, man. I'm doing excellent.
Glad to hear it. Thank you for joining me.
Of course.
Today we're going to talk about video game and movie adaptations and how they kind of flow back and forth from one another and what goes right and what goes wrong. But before we get to that, I want to make sure to remind you to but to enter our Crackdown 3 contest. If you like this video, you subscribe to our channel, and you follow us on Twitter, which is at DwnFwdPUNCH.
Mm-hmm.
That's at DwnFwdPUNCH. Then you are automatically entered to win a copy of Crackdown 3 upon its release.
Yep.
Easy enough, right?
Yeah.
You're already watching the video. You might as well do the other two steps. It is just that simple. And you get a free game.
And it's the only good game coming out for Xbox this year.
It's kind of true. But it looks like a lot of fun, especially now that Terry Crews is in it.
Destructible environments, and you're a super policeman.
Yes, and Terry Crews is a ridiculous human being. I got to meet the man, when I attended Comic-Con for his Crackdown panel.
How's your hand?
I didn't shake his hand.
Oh, okay.
But I met him briefly at a 4 foot distance. His muscles have muscles that are as big as my head. It is insane, and he is a human cartoon. It is fantastic.
He's awesome. Yeah, there's no doubt.
Great.
Ever since those Old Spice commercials.
Oh my God, those are so good.
You're about to get saved! Oh no!
I mean, Isaiah Mustafa was good in those.
Yeah.
But Terry Crews just took it to a whole nother level.
Oh, there's no doubt. He's amazing.
Yeah, I actually got to meet Isaiah Mustafa last year at
Really?
Comic-Con too. Yeah.
So you have a thing for people who appeared in Old Spice cartoons.
Apparently,
or
they just kind of
commercials.
end up going where I'm at. So, what are you gonna do?
They smell it. They're like, "Who's that guy wearing Old Spice? I'm gonna talk to that guy."
I think I do have Old Spice actually.
Of course you do.
Anyways, so we're talking today about video game movies and their adaptations of video games to movies and backwards from movies to video games.
Vice versa.
Historically, these have not gone well. Regardless of what direction you're going, most video games that are turned into movies are not good movies, and most movies you turn into video games also are not well.
There are exceptions.
There are exceptions, but the vast majority seem to not be good.
They're almost all terrible. 98% of them are all bad.
Yeah. Which I guess begs the first question: where's the baseline? So what movies have you seen that were video game movies that were actually good, or what video games based off movies have you seen that actually played well?
So I have a few. My first one from a game into movie was Silent Hill.
Okay.
It's easily the best video game adaptation / movie I've ever seen.
Now, I feel like I've seen that, but I don't remember a ton from it. But I think I remember
had Sean
it being
Bean
okay.
in it. It's one of the few movies where he doesn't die, which is great.
I
enough.
refuse to believe that.
It's pretty true, actually.
I'm sure there was an extra scene or a deleted scene somewhere, or maybe post credits.
That's true, actually.
That was before everybody stuck around.
He might have died in the sequel. I don't remember, but the sequel
I've heard is
actually,
bad.
the sequel followed the third game.
Okay.
I don't remember the girl's name, but she literally appears in the same outfit as she does in the third game. And the movie is, I just didn't like it. It really upset me, sadly, because the first one was so good.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of bad things about the second one.
But the first movie, like, it takes the concept of Silent Hill, like, it appeared, they go to the town. There is like some staples of the series in it, like the nurses, which they don't do anything until they hear a noise. Okay. So like if you're really quiet and like you can
kind of work around
them,
like a stealth
right?
Kind of
but
thing.
Man, they just like do this twitching thing, and like I feel like every movie that has and I don't even know what you call it, but that like fast or sped up motion of something like moving like in strange
I think it's skipping
ways.
a frame. So
yeah, like frame skipping animations.
You play
or
it kind of fast, but then you skip a bunch of frames, so it's real jagged.
Yeah,
that's always creepy.
Literally the creepiest thing I've ever seen in a film, and I love that Silent Hill kind of made that its thing.
Yeah.
And the nurses are a great example of that. Pyramid Head is in the film.
Okay.
In fact, in the original Resident Evil movie, there is a character, like a zombie, that's dragging an axe in like this very open, large room, so there's a lot of echo to it, and you just hear like this dragging noise, and like the zombie's just like slumped over, just like dragging an axe, and like it's the coolest scene because it immediately made me think of Silent Hill, even though I was watching Resident Evil. But Pyramid Head does the same thing in Silent Hill 2.
Yeah.
He's got like this, like, I don't know, like a butcher's apron on, and he's got a giant pyramid for a head, and he just carries around this enormous sword, and it drags on the ground behind him, so when you hear the dragging, scraping noise, you know it's him, and it's absolutely terrifying. But I really, really love that movie. I thought the effects were great. It was, like, creepy for what Silent Hill does, and then on top of that, like just some of like the cool like death scenes or gory scenes and stuff were just really well done. Like the final scene in that movie is incredibly cool. Like there are just all these chains that go into this girl and like from 30 different directions
Spoiler.
and just rip her apart. I mean, like it's awful and crazy, but very, very good.
Well, you mentioned a couple things in there that I thought were interesting, and I think when we talk about this topic, it's very difficult to kind of pinpoint what the right formula is, and part of it is because, to your point, you had one of those movies that followed the source material fairly quick, fairly well. Like it followed the plot of the second one.
They took like the things that made up the game, like whether it was characters or locations or a storyline that kind of had something to do with the game or whatever. Like Silent Hill is this abandoned town that you're fine until the fog comes, and when the fog comes, it's like look out, that's bad news,
Yeah.
Or the game is always just foggy or whatever, so like you can't really see anything while you're there, but like when you're there like during the daytime or whatever, it's fine. There's things like that. There's like puzzle solving elements, of course, and all that kind of stuff.
I guess what I'm saying is like, I think that people's natural thought would be, well, you need a video game movie to follow the story pretty closely to the video game, and I don't know that that's always the case. Like I look at something like Doom, right? Doom the movie.
That was a movie I forgot.
And Doom the movie, starring The Rock, by the way. Doom the movie, I felt like stayed pretty close to the story of the original Doom. Like it followed like the plot.
Science experiment on Mars opens a portal to hell.
And then even goes into like first person view. This way, it's like the game, and that movie's terrible.
Yeah.
And the game, especially at the time, was great. So I don't know that it's. I feel like it's more of capturing the spirit of the game rather than the actual story, like plot point by plot point.
Yeah, of course.
Because you have other games like Mortal Kombat, for example, where Mortal Kombat, the first Mortal Kombat movie, because the second one was garbage, but the first Mortal Kombat movie does not really follow the exact plot line of Mortal Kombat 1, the game, but it has all the elements that you would want to see from it. You have the various characters, you get a little bit of their backstory, they come together, they're fighting in a tournament, you have some special moves, you have the get over, like the things that you would want to hear and see.
Fan service.
It's there, you know what I mean? But not too much.
No,
you
just
don't
a
want them
little
to
bit.
just placate to the fans, because then you end up with a snakes on a plane kind of thing.
Right. Well, and I was telling you earlier about Mortal Kombat, how I felt about the Liu Kang and his dead brother portion of it, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like, I watch a lot of reviews based on movies that I tend to end up going to see anyway, or I avoid based on the review that I read, right? I'm one of those people, and I'm 100% okay with that. I know a lot of people who disagree that reviews are bad. Like, sometimes a movie gets bad reviews, and it's actually fun or good or whatever, right?
Sure.
But for the most part, I feel like in many cases, if a movie is well reviewed, I will enjoy it. And that's all. To be honest, well-reviewed movies have not even been that good for me, depending on when I go see them as well. It just depends. Something has to connect with me, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
And one thing I feel like a lot of movies miss is they miss a connection with characters, or a character to the audience, for that matter. Like some emotional connection or a reason to care about this character and the struggles they're going through or whatever. And think about it, Mortal Kombat is a game where it loads up, you hit start, choose a fighter, and you kill somebody and do a fatality. That's what Mortal Kombat is.
At least
but
it used
has
to be.
a story.
It's a lot different now.
Right,
Yeah.
but it has a story though, right?
But
Barely, but it's such a... But think about how many games craft a story that is like probably pages long with dialogue and events and sequences and this. Mortal Kombat is a story about like 8 people get chosen to go to a realm, and they go fight each other. It's a tournament of survival. It's crazy and weird.
But Mortal Kombat actually I feel like it's exactly opposite. Mortal Kombat actually did have a ton of story to it. It just wasn't presented to you during gameplay because Mortal Kombat was really big in the arcades, right? You would go to the arcade, you would see the big machine, and it would have all those like pictures of a fighter, and then it would be their name and like the backstory of this person, right? So you would learn all about Liu Kang and Goro,
Shaolin monk, and blah blah blah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you would learn all about these characters, but then in between stories, or in between like those scenes, you would get the occasional like fight scene real quick to show you a demo of the game, and then it would cut to something that was about like when they entered the tournament or something like that. And then when you beat the game, every character that you beat the game with, you got a different story about what happened. So you actually get like a ton of story and backlog about like the whole lore and universe of Mortal Kombat, even though when you're playing it's just...
But at the time, do you remember yourself feeling like that's the reason you're playing this game?
That is what...
Or did you find yourself to come to appreciate it later on?
No, I was always drawn to Mortal Kombat because of the depth of the universe.
Okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Before you know that that's there, the allure is like, oh, there's a game and there's a ton of blood and a ton of kicking and stuff and like fatalities and people are going out. I mean, like that stuff drew you to it before you saw it. But once you're there, you're like, cool. Like I like that character because he used to be a ninja and now he's avenging his brother's death and all that other stuff. You know what I mean? I think that was a huge piece to it.
I still feel like Mortal Kombat was just fun to like rip people's spines out.
That
like,
definitely
do other
was.
Cool things.
It definitely was fun.
To be honest, really what I wanted to know during all of Mortal Kombat was I really wanted to know about Sub-Zero's story. And I wanted them to make a game based on Sub-Zero.
Oh my god, don't even get me started.
And I wanted to see
You're
how
trying to goat me into it.
How would Sub-Zero handle like platforming, right? Or how would he handle like spinning blades that are like positioned so unfairly that you can't possibly pass them?
This is a pet peeve of mine. If you're new to the channel, I loathe with a passion Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero. I played it on the N64, hated my life every second of it. It was one of the worst games I ever played, and it's come up several times on the channel. And David is trying to goad me into a rant.
Goat you into it, technically.
I'm just giving context. I'm going to take the higher road. The reason why I brought Mortal Kombat up, though, is because it does not follow the game exactly, and still it was a fun game. It gives you nothing.
It's a stupid movie that was fun.
It's not winning any awards.
It also had an amazing soundtrack. I mean, not even just the original title screen.
Mortal Kombat!
No.
But, I mean, like, I come
yeah.
to think of the song, Chinese Ninja Warrior is one of my favorites. It's the Sub-Zero song.
Okay. I don't know any of them by name. But
I will send this to you.
Okay.
Get this to you at some point because it is so good. It has like...
You will legally point me to the link in which I can purchase it. Right?
Yeah, of course. It has like ridiculous like techno music in it, and the lyrics are horrible. It's like Chinese Ninja Warrior, you're so cold, Sub-Zero. That's literally the lyrics to the whole song. It's so bad.
That sounds awful.
But the soundtrack was great to that movie, and the characters were fun, and like you said, like they brought back characters like that you maybe didn't think you'd see. Like Goro was in it, and you're like, oh, it's Goro.
Yeah,
like,
you couldn't even
he's the
believe
guy
yourself.
I never got to in the arcade because the game is so hard, and I never thought I'd see him. But like that was neat, and then. But every character had some sort of motivation, like Kano and Sonya had like this history, and like they played out their history in a fight to the death, and I thought that was really cool. So yes, Mortal Kombat, oddly enough, for a fighting game, had a great kind of a cool story with it.
Yeah.
But it was such a very simple story, and there was nothing really complicated about it, which is why I think it transitioned well.
It lets you go as deep into it as you wanted to go.
Sure.
But then you had other games where I feel like for the longest time, video game movies were just a cash grab. Like you had a studio that said, hey, this thing is popular. Sure. I bet people would want to, see more of it. So let me figure out a way to put a movie together and we'll just slap something on there and let it go. Then you end up with Super Mario Brothers, which is awful in every possible way.
Or you end up with Adam Sandler, who takes all those things and makes them into awful movies like Pixels.
Pixels was also rough.
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, that's different because that's...
No, it is, I know.
It's not an adaptation of a game, it's just...
That was more of an Adam
Sandler
jab.
Yeah.
Just because I need to do that in my life.
That's fair.
But, I don't know, like, I think one of the other ones I really enjoyed was like... Professor Layton had an anime film or an animated film, and I liked that. But then I was thinking about it too, that with animated films, there's less that you have to worry about. Like, you don't have to worry about casting really a bad actor in terms of his, his facial expressions and his mannerisms and movements.
Yeah.
You're really just casting someone based on their voice, and everything else is animated for them. So as
Yeah.
long as they have a decent voice and there's a good story, that's really all you need. It's like, and then there's like now a new trend of animated films turning into real live action, and that sounds awesome. Like, there's something that draws me to that concept, but then like none
doesn't
of
always
them
play out
have,
the
none
same
of them
way.
been really good.
I do think it's safer to kind of try to adapt something like a video game to an animation than it is to a full scale, full feature movie.
Absolutely.
I seem to I draw a lot of comparisons. I feel like there are a lot of parallels between video game movies and comic book movies back in the day, and comic book movies have finally found their footing a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of the same thing, because in the beginning it was like where studios would say like, here's something that kids will drag their parents to, right?
Yeah.
So they would put together any kind of comic book movie and just hope that they could sell a toy down the road. And I feel like video game movies were the same thing. Now you have, like Marvel Studios, which they care about their properties, and you have even like the first Spider-Man movie, they actually hired a director in Sam Raimi that grew up on Spider-Man and was invested in it. So he wanted to make a quality piece of film.
He made at least 2 good ones.
He did make. Did he do the third one?
I can't remember if he did. I don't know if he did the third. The third one is so bad. I love the second one though. Dr. Octopus is cool.
I can't remember if the third one was him or Joel Schumacher. It might have been him. But anyways, Spider-Man 1 was kind of a turning point for comic book movies, because somebody finally took a movie seriously, and it was fantastic, right? Mm-hmm. Now you have these movies that actually have prestige to them. Everyone wants to be involved in a Marvel project.
Right.
Actors are proud to be a part of it. And you have movies that are... I look at Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight.
Right.
That's like a masterpiece of... That's like a legitimately good movie. Not even just a good comic book movie, but that was at least Oscar nominated. I don't remember if it won.
It's
fantastic.
Yeah. Like that movie I could watch for the rest of my life, probably over and over again. Never get bored of it.
Oh my God.
It had 3 of my favorite actors probably ever in it, or at least at the time or whatever, like everyone gravitated towards certain people, but these comic book characters in a real like action film, I don't know how they pulled it off, but they did. There were just so many good moments in that movie.
Yeah.
The entire thing was incredible. And sadly the third one I hated though. I really hated the third one.
I didn't hate it, but I thought it was the weakest of the 3.
Yeah.
But even that, like, you look at that and it's not taking... That didn't take any one particular comic book plot line to take it in, to make it into a solid movie. So again, I don't think in order to make a successful video game movie that they would have to take one video game from beginning to end and adapt it to a film. I think like Uncharted comes up a lot, where that could adapt to a movie. I don't think they need to make Uncharted for the movie, but you can do some kind of, Nathan Drake side quest or something that's happening on another adventure or in between adventures or runs concurrently with the events of a game to make it
should be
interesting.
Nathan Drake? Literally, and I mean this, Nathan Fillion should be Nathan Drake.
I can kind of see that.
That could work. I think he's got the charisma, and he's got definitely has the charisma for it.
He's kind of, isn't he
He
a little...
looks just kind. He actually kind of looks like him too.
I picture, like, if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna get an actor for that, wouldn't you pick somebody a little bit younger than Nathan Fillion?
I think you could get away with it because they made Han Solo look super young in Star Wars, like somehow. I don't know how they did that.
Yeah, and they made Robert Downey Jr. look super young. in Avengers.
That's the other thing. You're right.
Civil
that
War
was creepy.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That
so
was
I guess
weird.
it's possible. I just picture somebody that'd be like mid-20s or like late 20s maybe.
I could see it happening, but I think you're right. I think if you take some of these historically like best-selling franchises or whatever, and you do something like that, I think there's the potential for it to work, but sometimes it doesn't, because like look how many Assassin's Creed games there were, and that movie was awful,
really awful. And that I think is a shame too, because it did seem like that was a movie that a studio was trying to make an actual like legitimate film.
They did. They
and
really
it just didn't
tried.
work. That is one of the most boring movies I've ever seen. Like I don't fall asleep during movies, and I almost drifted off several times during that one. I wanted so badly to see it, and I'm sitting there like, oh, it was brutal. But I give them credit for at least trying to put something together, because sometimes they don't even try. Like, who's the guy who made Alone in the Dark?
Oh, Uwe Boll.
Uwe Boll.
I always call him U-Boll.
This guy makes every garbage video game movie you've ever seen.
They're weird ones that like nobody would ever think to make a movie about.
Alone in the Dark, House of the Dead, Blood Rain 1 and 2. I think these are all him, and they're all dumpster fires. They're just
Postal
terrible.
is the other one.
Terrible movies. I haven't seen that one.
Oh, Postal is... I don't know. I mean, I've never seen the movie, but I've played the games, and they're super raunchy and weird.
Yeah,
it's a very strange series of games. But yeah, you like took Postal, made it a film. It's crazy. And you know, when he was like the internet's joke for years. Like, I mean, there was an article every other day about him.
The man should not be allowed to touch a camera.
No, he shouldn't. He's made garbage ever since. I don't know. Video game movies are just notoriously bad, and like even ones that, like, I'll never forget. Recently you went to San Diego Comic-Con, right?
Yep.
And one of the coolest things that I love about Comic-Con is that it's like, not only is it a celebration of like, you know, comics and you know, like nerdy memorabilia and whatever and this and that, but it's also like a big thing for trailers for TV shows.
Yeah,
like,
it's
especially
a celebration
comic
of the
booky
arts.
type of TV shows, right? Like all the Netflix Marvels or Netflix DC series of things that are going on. Then they show like, you know, trailers for like various movies and stuff that are going to be big things that people are looking forward to, like maybe Infinity War, you know, whatever. But like the one that I was waiting for 2 years ago, and I was looking for every leaked link that was like, you know, cam action, live action trailer of this or whatever, and it was like for the Warcraft film. Not that I love World of Warcraft, but I love Warcraft in general because I've been playing the RTSs a long time.
Sure, yeah.
But I never really got into the MMO. I didn't care for it. But every single like day I was looking for like some sort of Warcraft trailer leak or whatever. And then when I saw it, I was like, man, that looks crazy. Like it's actually finally happening. That was also another like project that was never going to happen. And the movie comes out. And it's just terrible. I mean, it's like not good for the most part.
I've heard mixed things about it. I haven't seen it personally. I know that movie did not do particularly well in North America, but China is like eating it up.
The world market is now a thing now with movies. I mean, we mentioned Transformers is a thing. Not so. I mean, it's huge in a way because Americans love it, but if you want to really make money on a Transformers film, just send it to China or South Korea or whatever, you know. These countries love that stuff. They eat it up.
Which is rightfully so, but I think that just maybe the bar, because they have not the same exposure to things that we do, that I think that the bar for expectation is lower.
Well, think about sending like a movie like Transformers over to India, where primarily all their stuff is like, you ever heard of Bollywood, for example? Yeah, like that stuff is like low budget garbage. Like, and there's
lots of singing,
hundreds,
lots of dancing,
right? Just hundreds and thousands.
You send Transformers
of
there,
films.
you're like, oh my god, I've never seen this before.
Yeah, like somebody could be literally blown away. You know, I mean, we've all had those moments where we saw a movie that we couldn't believe what we were seeing.
Oh yeah,
I guarantee that that's still a thing for half the world. You know.
Which actually leads me to my next point. So one of the movies that I saw that I was blown away by when I first saw it was The Matrix. I mean, it was like a revolutionary movie, right? Now, Matrix went the other way, where it was adapted to a video game.
Yes.
And their video game, I think, was called Enter the Matrix, right?
Yep.
And this is one where it was pitched as it was going to take place in between Matrix movies. It was going to be canon, I believe, and you would follow characters from the films, but not your main characters, some ancillary characters. And you would follow them, and you would play as them, and you would get additional story. Right? Sounds amazing.
Sure.
Sounds great. Like, how can you take bullet time and a great movie and tell me it's part of the canon? I get extra story. Like, how can you lose? Garbage.
Yeah.
Awful game. Very bad. So.
Did you ever play the MMO?
No, I didn't. Was that worth playing?
Nope, not at all.
So, it goes both ways. So it's hard to make a movie out of a video game, but it's hard to make a video game out of a movie too. And I'm struggling to think of any movies that I've. Oh, you know what? I've heard Chronicles of Riddick has a good video game adaptation.
It's called Chronicles of Riddick: Escape from Butcher Bay. It's on the 360.
Okay.
And it is an excellent game. It basically took source material from like a movie that wasn't like, I would say, extremely popular or whatever. But they made a great game out of it though.
Riddick. Or if it's based on Chronicles, Pitch Black is a big cult phenomenon, but Chronicles of Riddick, I think, went over fairly well.
Yeah, and it was a good film if I remember correctly. I don't remember a long time ago if I even saw it. I don't know.
I know I saw it, and I think I liked it, but I don't remember a lot of details from it.
Yeah, but no, that was definitely a good one.
Were there other adaptations of movies that went to video games that ended up okay that you can think of?
So movies to video games. Well, I think the most obvious one is GoldenEye.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, GoldenEye was incredible. I mean, you have, I mean, it's a fairly reasonably good Bond film.
Yeah, it's a decent movie.
But it's the game that changed the world.
Yeah.
At one point, it literally changed and defined
good movie,
shooters.
Amazing game.
Yeah, that was a huge one.
Yeah.
There was. I'm trying to think of anything else that was something. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory had a video game.
It did. Oh my God! Why would you make that? Who wants to play that?
I don't know. Actually, more of a recent thing. The new Cars 3 movie got a racing game that came out on the majority of systems, and supposedly it's awesome. Like, it has like all these different. It's like Mario Kart with cars, though. Like,
okay.
Like the Cars franchise.
I
thought that was kind of cool. I was like, wow, they actually made a good movie game out of it.
So I thought it was interesting. I guess Ratchet and Clank, which was a video game, spawned a
animated film,
which triggered a video game adaptation of the animated film.
Something like that.
So it was like a game. It was a game based off a movie based off a game, and where the original game was well received and the more recent game was well received, but the movie in the middle was hot trash.
I guess so. I never saw it because I don't think I've ever played a Ratchet and Clank game ever.
I saw it. It wasn't good.
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know. There's been so many like video game, or sorry, movies that have turned into video games. That's for sure. I mean, there was a time where, every Super Nintendo game and Game Boy game and DS game and Wii game was like, here's a movie, here's a game, here's a movie, here's a game. And that was awful. I do have another fond memory, actually. Aladdin on either Genesis or SNES.
It's way better on Genesis.
Right. See, I played the SNES version of it, but Aladdin was fantastic.
It was. And I think that works so well because it gave you everything you needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you were thinking, I'm going to play an Aladdin game, you wanted the characters to look like they did in this. You wanted the game to look like the movie, right? The animated movie. And it did. You had the charm of the music and you had the humor from that. Like, it took all of the elements that was the movie and then found a way to put in the game.
Sure.
And I think that's key to any of this, right? Like, I don't think that you need to take straight adaptation from any of this to make it work. No. But you have to find the spirit of the game to make it into a video game or vice versa. And that spirit comes from those type of things. It's not just necessarily is the character there. Because you can make a game without having you can make a movie without having the main video game character be there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look at Resident Evil, and I know you're not as fond of them as I am, but the first Resident Evil movie I thought was a decent enough film. Alice not in the game at all.
No.
I would have liked to seen Chris Redfield or Jill Valentine or whatever show up earlier in the series.
They should have been the main characters. Like, they should have recreated Resident Evil, the original game, as a movie. They should have done that. Because, like I said, we talked about this at one point, that games are so cinematic now, we don't want to see direct adaptations into film because there's literally no point.
Right.
Almost games have cutscenes and they have all the voice acting and motion capturing. Some of these darn things are so real. It's like you don't need an actual movie. But you take a game like Resident Evil 1 where it's like blocky characters that move like this and they move like this and literally can go shoot here, here, or here. That's stupid. But it was still a great game.
Unless you played on the GameCube version, because the Resident Evil remake.
Just remember how terrified you were at that first moment when you walk through that door and you see the guy they're looking for. He's on the ground and there's something over him and it's like, what's going on? And then that cutscene happens where the zombie turns his head, and looks at you and he's got like blood all over his mouth. And you're like, back in the day, we hadn't seen better visuals, so that was kind of scary. It was cool.
Yeah.
Well, that would have been a prime opportunity for them to take that story of the mansion and the people that went there and the STARS team and the T-Virus and Umbrella Corporation and make it into this great film. But instead, they kind of took trace elements of all that stuff and then put a character no one's ever heard of in it and then put zombies in it when zombies weren't really the thing yet,
See, I'm okay with it either way. I think there's some franchises that you have to do that with. So, if they were ever to make a Legend of Zelda video game, you better...
Never happening.
It will never happen. But let's say for some reason in some alternate universe that they did, you would have to have Link and Zelda in it. You would have to, right? For me, Resident Evil, a franchise where you flip-flop who your main characters are all the time anyway, I'm okay with you giving me some character that doesn't exist, but I still want you to capture the spirit of the game, which they could have done better, don't get me wrong, but I don't think they did an awful job at.
Right.
There was still things in there that made me feel like it was, within the world of Resident Evil, and that's all I asked for. I wasn't asking for an Academy Award winning movie with
Movies
Resident
just
Evil.
need to be fun. They don't always need to be
Right.
like...
And that's why Mortal Kombat was good, because Mortal Kombat was fun, even though it's not like the best quality built movie. It gave you what you wanted to get, and it was fun.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoyed that movie thoroughly, and I've seen it multiple times,
So how do studios now, what is the formula? What do they need to do in order to make a good video game adaptation into a movie?
I think you kind of talked about it earlier, and I think this is really the key, is that when you mentioned how Marvel as a studio kind of says okay, we're top dog. We're the ones that make the calls, make the decisions. We decide when this movie starts filming and when we've accepted the script, right? So they're the key. It's much like Disney. Disney's the same thing. It's Disney rarely makes a bad film because they're so protective of their stuff.
Right.
So you have the top. And then you have okay, well here we've decided the project's moving forward. Let's find ourselves a producer, a director, whatever, right? And then that guy goes out and he goes and finds some talent. And then, you have a bunch of other people involved as well, too. But it all comes up to here. But you need, not just a bunch of people who are out to make money. You need people who care about the product, right? So if the executives are into the product and they care about it, then there's a good chance that it's going to do well. If they're there just to make money, then they're going to just sell the brand. They're going to sell the toys. They're going to sell the merchandise with it. And that's the kind of thing that a lot of people suffer from. So, a lot of more recent projects, there's been some prominent figures that have been involved, and they'll walk away because they either can't get the funding that they want, they can't do the things they want to do, or there's just a myriad of problems, and the studio just doesn't know what to do, and then they'll be like, you know what, I'm walking away from the project. How many times have we heard about a movie coming out only to hear that the director walked away from it,
Right.
And then be like, oh, well, then now who do we get? And they just got to go find a replacement to pick up the pieces of a script.
Yeah.
And that sucks. So... Whereas a video game movie in itself isn't necessarily a terrible idea, and it still should be done. I think it really needs to be where how Marvel, in a sense, they care so much about their product, and they also have a grander scheme in place. So I think a lot of that ties into stuff too. They introduce characters for a reason,
right.
Whereas a video game film would just be a video game film because they decided to do it. There's really no grand idea behind it,
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to your point, when Marvel's making their movies, they're invested in making sure that they're putting together a quality film, where a lot of times when these video game movies get optioned by the various studios, whatever, it's about, hey, this is popular, maybe we can make some money off this, right?
Yeah.
It's just, can we make something that's good enough to sell tickets?
Yeah.
Versus, I want to actually put a quality product out there. Because a quality product and a non-quality product can both sell tickets and can both make money, but it doesn't mean that they're both good, right? So just to be able to make something that has moderate success doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a great film.
Absolutely.
And if we ever saw a studio like a Bethesda or something that wanted to take one of their properties and did what Marvel did, where it said, hey, we're gonna transition, we're gonna start up Bethesda Film Studios, and we're gonna make Fallout 4 or Fallout the movie, I would believe that they would probably have that type of interest and care and babying.
Fallout's a great game too, because really none of the characters matter. None of the characters are really carryovers, or they don't really stand out.
Right.
I mean, you are a survivor of the vault, and you don't really have a name. Your name is basically the player, right? But I'd love to see a Fallout film. I think that would be really cool, especially if your character fell through the earth, or there were giant flesh spiders that reached halfway across the level to grab you and stuff, because glitches. Bethesda's great at that.
Faces all jacked up.
I think it'd be really wonderful if they made a film though. That or a Skyrim film. Shoot, that would be pretty cool. I mean, think about Skyrim. You're a Dovahkiin, and that's not really a name. It's a race of people, and that's kind of neat too. So they don't even really personalize their games. It's not oh, I need to have Nathan Drake in this game. It's no, it's just a person. It can be anybody you want. It doesn't matter,
Yeah.
And that's good. There's so many good ideas out there of just games that are just wonderful, and that they could take and they could give it a shot. But think about it. Hollywood is a machine. It needs to keep churning out products, right? And games are the same way. I mean, we get good games, we get bad games. Some ideas are better than others. Some games come out at the right time. Other movies come out at the wrong time.
Yep.
Like, here's an idea. Like, release a really good movie during the first 2 to 3 months of the year, January through March, which is notoriously known as the literal worst time to make and release a movie. Like, if you want to release a bad movie, that's the time to do it, because there's nothing good in the first 3 months of the year.
Right.
Occasionally you do find something decent. That's a great time to maybe release a film, That's really good.
Yeah, but I think they do that because people don't venture out of their houses, because half the country in January and February is snowed in. So they want to release their expensive baby project at a time that people are going to want to leave their house to go in. I get that. And
that's why summer is always a big time,
Right. That's why your blockbusters come out during the summer, because it's like something to do, like, hey, kids are out of school.
This year, that's for sure. The summer's been awful. Everything that's come out has been terrible.
No, Wonder Woman's been great. Spider-Man
Homecoming's
been great.
Right. Well, okay, I'm talking like early, like spring into summer, like was bad. Like the beginning of it was bad. But you're right, Wonder Woman was amazing, and
Fantastic.
Spider-Man I have not seen yet, but I'm planning.
Very
on
good.
It. I will.
It's amazing.
The formula is so complicated, Jason. It's never gonna be perfect.
Well, I think that they could. I think that the studios need to start bringing in consultants, or somebody that represents the studio for the source material. This way they can at least have somebody that's there, like, making sure that they're doing justice to the character.
Sure.
Because a studio, I mean, I wish I could think of this specific example, but I was reading about something the other day where there was a gentleman who was optioned to make some kind of comic book movie, or not comic book, a video game movie years ago, right? And when they were interviewing him after he got the gig, he was like, yeah, I love insert game here. I remember playing it with my kids back in the day and whatever. And there was like a big tell that, like, this guy doesn't care about the games. Like, him making that comment says he is somebody who just is another person like, video games are for kids, so I'm just going to make some kind of movie this way. Kids want to go see it, and they drag their parents, and now we get twice as many ticket sales. I want somebody like how, the original Spider-Man had with Sam Raimi, who grew up on the comic books, and he wanted to make that film because he loved Spider-Man. Sure. Or Christopher Nolan taking it and looking and saying, or Bryan Singer. That's a great example too.
Yeah.
X-Men was another turning point. Now, X-Men I don't think is as great as a lot of people think that it was, but it still was a turning point for comic book movies.
1 was good. 2 is the movie that defined comic book films.
And the reason why that those worked well is because Bryan Singer went and read a ton of X-Men movies, or comic books, and then he watched the animated series to make sure he was familiar with the source material. He actually cared about not just making a comic book movie, but making a good film that happened to be about comics.
That's why I would almost hope that some of these, like, development houses that actually make games will at some point, like, maybe branch out and make films out of them.
Yeah,
like, could you imagine a well-written Borderlands film?
That would be cool.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
The game's absolutely hysterical. First of all, it would have tons of humor in it.
Well, that's the thing. They would have to capture the humor, and they'd have to capture the quirkiness and all those things. Like, if you could do those, that would be great.
Yeah.
If they just made a movie that took place in a desert with people with guns and masks and called it Borderlands, that could easily blow up in their face.
I think so. It's very possible. But I don't know. Like, Mad Max was a great movie and also a great game.
I played some of Mad Max.
Very good.
From what I played, it was fine. I didn't get too far into it.
It was made by the same studio that made Batman. It was Rocksteady.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. That's why it plays literally like Batman. It's the exact same thing. The fighting system is the exact same. It's the punch counter system, whatever.
I'm trying to remember. I don't remember.
But it was a very good game. An excellent game, actually. I loved it. There's only a handful of games that I've ever really enjoyed that have been that way.
So I guess in closing, what if you were to pick any video game that you would like to see done as a movie, as a well done movie, what would you pick?
It's tough, but I still feel like one of the best experiences that I ever had with a game was the very simplistic but powerful story of Shadow of the Colossus.
Okay.
I mean, you have this character who essentially enters a forbidden land. He has this dead girl with him. You assume she's dead, and he goes there, and you don't really know why, but he lays her on this altar, and a voice basically speaks to him saying, if you complete this task for me, I will bring this person back that you love. Simple concept.
Sure.
Nothing more complicated than that. Kill these things and whatever. That movie has very little dialogue. It's almost all visuals. The story is very plainly set. It's very self-explanatory from the get-go. And I really feel like they could make an epic film out of that with such a simple storyline and just make good emotional moments between either like... Well, really, the game is about you and your horse in most cases. So, like, do you remember the scene from Neverending Story where the horse drowns in the Swamp of Sadness?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, as a child, a teenager, even a young adult, potentially,
Heartbreaking.
that is literally one of the most heartbreaking scenes in all of movie history, I think.
Yeah.
Where that horse just, like, decides to kill itself because it just doesn't feel like going on. It's awful, right?
It's terrible.
It's just a simple scene, but they set up that whole thing where Atreyu and I don't even think that boy has a name. I can't remember. Or maybe he is Atreyu. I forget that. Oh,
the boy that rides the horse?
It's Atreyu and... Artax. Artax is the name of the horse.
Okay.
So those two characters, like, it's this horse and this kid, and like at one point he's like by a river and he's like feeding him apple, and these are simple moments, right? But they're showing this bond between the horse and the kid, right? And that's what I think that they could easily do with this game, and they could somehow just turn it into a masterpiece, and not even more than the game already is. That would be my ultimate pick to see. Not even like an adaptation, but just a literal translation of just take that and make it into a film. Please do that someday for me. That's all I ask.
You'd probably expect me to say Halo because I'm a big Halo fanboy. And as much as I would like to see Halo be finally turned into a movie, I'm actually going to pick Metroid. I think I would love to see Metroid. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I'm sure Nintendo would never let somebody touch that. But I think it would be amazing to see Samus in live action.
Just don't let Ridley Scott do it. He'll ruin it. Like he ruins everything else now.
Yeah, I mean his more recent
last
stuff
few movies have
been
been real bad.
But I can you imagine seeing a live action? Well, it would be CGI, but seeing a live action movie with a Metroid there, like the first time you see a Metroid step out of a shadow,
they're terrifying.
Oh my god, it would be incredible.
Well, and there's a lot of characters, like, there's bosses that have names that have appeared through the game's history, forever. Like, Mother Brain could easily be a thing. I mean, that would be very cool. In fact,
or what's the thing with the wings?
Ridley.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Ridley, and then, like, but, like, the planet has a name. All the areas in the game have a name. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff that they could do for Metroid, but I'm so worried that Nintendo will never let anyone touch their franchises and make it into a film
after
ever again.
The disaster that was Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe not, but even that, it's just a licensing thing. So if they can find somebody, maybe if somebody approached them and had a well-written script and said, like, this is something we would like to option, make sure that you feel great. I mean, they could use it to their advantage too.
Well, they could easily revitalize the franchise with a good film because it's something maybe we've even talked about at some point. But the new Metroid coming out, if people don't buy this, why would Nintendo keep making it?
Yeah.
So that's one of the biggest problems with Metroid. It's a game that all the fanboys love, but when it comes down to sales numbers, Metroid is not cutting it.
Right.
And it hasn't for years, which is one of the reasons they haven't made
because
one. It's a game that I want to play and I want to love, and I just hope they keep making them. So yeah, make a movie.
Sure. Yeah,
dude, that'd be sweet.
It would be sweet. Well, that's it for the DwnFwdPUNChcast, episode 21.
Yeah.
If you would like to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at DwnFwdPUNCH. That's at DwnFwdPUNCH. And remember, if you follow us on Twitter and you like this video that you're watching right now, and you also subscribe to the channel, you are entered for the Crackdown 3 contest giveaway. You're so close. Just do it, and you can get it over with.
Click a few buttons.
Maybe you'll get lucky. Somebody's going to get lucky. If you'd like to follow me directly, you can at Sergio Armani.
And me, I am at David_B_Reed.
He remembered his Twitter handle.
That's 'cause
Mark this day down in your calendar.
So prior to this video, how many times did we go over it? 30 times?
Probably.
Yeah.
We
did
been
more
a lot of
show
coaching.
prep for that than we did for the actual show.
That's true. Every week. If you watch regularly, you know that he never remembers his Twitter handle. Which is absurd because it's his own name.
But I don't check Twitter, so you should watch my Twitch streams instead. And that's at Paul Blart Malblart on Twitch. Watch me play Binding of Isaac and go for achievements. I'm almost done, man. I almost got all the achievements in that game. I'm this close. I'm in the 300 mark
Stick
right
it.
now.
You got to stick it to it.
You know, when I say achievements, to you, you're thinking, oh, there's like 35 or 20. Because that's how most games are.
No, there's what, like 195?
There's 330 or something in this
Good
game.
Lord.
It's taken me over almost 3 years to do it.
That's insane.
But anyway, very good game. And I'll stream original Pikmin, too. Watch me do some of that.
There you go. Check that out.
So,
All right. Well, like this video, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, keep on gaming.